Today is November 17th, Saturday. We are here in Uno School in Tokyo and Vietnam today, gathered from Vietnam by Takashi-san. Today we will discuss the differences in culture between Japan and Europe. We have been looking at European history, and we saw that actually that's very important difference between Japan and Europe is that Europe is a continent with different people with different language, different cultural background, different ethnic background, and these people throughout history have been living next to each other, not always peacefully, very often not so peacefully. If you look at European history, there is many times when there was conflict and there was war and people were on the move, and while they were moving they were kind of blending in with other people. So Europe is basically a melting pot. It's not really stable. The people that are living in Germany have their roots far further away towards the east, and people who are living in England have their roots from Western France, for example, originally. So there was constant change, constant turmoil in Europe, instability, war, trade, and a melting of people. If we compare that to Japan is...
By the way, how about now? My question, in Europe.
Right.
Italy is populism, and
Yes.
German America is going to be stepping down from position.
Right.
And Macron is just only supported by French people, only 25%. So very unstable, right?
It is very unstable.
And everybody against Trump. How do you think?
Right. So that I think maybe Europe is even a little bit lucky that Trump exists, because that is a common enemy.
No, my question is common enemy, but Europe are all very unstable.
Yes. If
Why they are against Trump instead of each other, get each other problem? They have their own problem.
Right.
Right?
Right. So, well, basically, Europe is kind of like standing on two legs. One leg is their national identity. The other leg is their European identity and the European interest. I think that...
Okay, Kimo, see you later.
ありがとうございます。
He'll back. What time you going to come back?
4:30.
Okay.
So we see a lot of people who are, especially the voters. The voters are very far away from the actual power. The power lies in Brussels when it comes to matters of international trade, of European interests versus the United States, for example.
But my further question is, Brussels is very inefficient.
It's very inefficient, yes.
Many people complain.
Yes, but I don't think that is the
And
core
arrogant.
issue.
And lazy decision.
Well, I think the problem is that a lot of people feel that they cannot do anything. The individual voter feels that
No, the other question, EU will sustain?
oh, that is the key question. I mean, that is the key question. I don't think that has to do so much with inefficiency, but I feel that how people are, they feel that they are getting further and further away from power. Because a lot of power is being centralized, and centralization means that the distance between the individual and the actual power is growing. So if there is a European election, the number of people that actually even bother to vote is, well, very little. It's very little, because people don't feel that they have any influence in Brussels. It's too far away from
Yeah,
them.
my
There are-
question is like that. Italy, as you know, German, as you know, Macron, as you know,
Right.
Brexit, and Theresa May is losing.
Yes.
Every major country got problem, right? But still everybody against Trump.
Hmm.
How come they have so confident against Trump? Unity is a dream.
It's a dream, but it's also a reality that most people still feel our immediate past, which is immediate past of war, conflict, two big world wars that put enormous scars on Europe and on people. It's very close. Most people, maybe today's leaders, have grandparents who fought in the war, who lived through that war, so who's still very much aware of Europeans' history. And there is one thing that actually, like, the best thing of Europe is no more war. At least try to integrate as much as possible, so that the price of going to war, the conflict, the us versus you, is switched from us versus you to us versus them. So it's vital for Europe and for the future of Europe to keep the EU alive, especially for this reason. Is it perfect? Far from it. I think that this whole project has been pushed very hard, not always based on common sense, on rational motivations, but also on emotional motivations. When Germany, I think it was Kohl who suggested that we should drive the EU forward and we should introduce a single currency, even though it was very well known that it would be very hard to get the fiscal discipline of every individual nation, because normally you would have a common economic policy first and then create an individual and a single currency. They switch it around and they say, okay, we will do the conversions later. Well, that, of course, that basically they knew that it was very dangerous what they were doing, but they also knew that the EU needed a boost, so they were in a rhythm. But if you stop there, they would never be able to bring it further. So Europe was also a little bit of a gamble, but for a very good cause, for European interests, to be a counterpart, to be a player, and most of all, to not have any more war among us. But unfortunately, we see that because Europe is so imperfect, because people, especially when things are not going so well, people want things to change. Now, if as a voter you feel you don't have any power to change anything because the power is actually further and further away from you, you feel powerless. So people start to vote for parties that are aiming for national interest.
People that influence the EU, right?
Right. So Brexit movement, Italy, who refused to change their budget. They are clear signals of people are fed up with it. They want their autonomy back. Now, I think that basically that's not based on that they prefer to get out of Europe, but they just want change. They want something else. What is happening now is obviously not working, and a lot of people, unfortunately, and we see this is a problem with democracy. A lot of people do not think much beyond their short-term interests, not of the long-term goals. It's very difficult to sell for a politician who needs to be re-elected every 4 years that it's all in our best interest, and we have a big dream, and sell the big dream and keep on going in spite of all the practical problems that you will encounter for years and years and years. A lot of politicians cannot sell that.